What is up, Light Fam? Welcome to another video. My name is David, your spiritual awakening coach, here to help you through your spiritual awakening. Now, as you go through the spiritual awakening process, you'll experience the ascension symptoms associated with the spiritual awakening. So those ascension symptoms can be anything from the physical to the more esoteric or spiritual symptoms, or more of what I like to call the new chapter or next life chapter ascension symptoms. So this video is going to focus on the next chapter of your life ascension symptoms, for lack of a better term. And that is losing your identity after a spiritual awakening. Another juicy one, Light Fam. Let's go. Are you having an identity crisis after a spiritual awakening? What the heck kind of ascension symptom is that? What's really going on here? Well, a spiritual awakening starts a rising or an ascending of your level of conscious awareness. So this vibration continues to rise and get more and more vibrationally dissonant with anything of a lower vibration in your life, such as limiting beliefs, stagnant or toxic relationships, maybe a job that is not in alignment with your sense of purpose, your current friends and acquaintances, the list goes on. It's that feeling of being disconnected to what is familiar, but yet still out of alignment with your sense of purpose and inspiration for your life. That's where that disconnectedness comes to. Even if you don't know what that purpose for your life is yet, you just have a deep understanding that it's not what you're currently feeling disconnected to. Having an identity crisis after a spiritual awakening is pretty much an inevitable ascension symptom, because essentially you're saying goodbye to the old identity that you've known all of your life up to that point, and finding yourself in that in-between spot of no man's land where the new identity is now trying to plant roots in your current timeline. But why would this be called an identity crisis? Because your 3D ego, identity, tasked with keeping you safe, is in the process of dying. Now, this is also what's known as the dark night of the soul or ego death, but don't let that scare you. Here's what I mean by this. It's the 3D ego that established your concept of identity from childhood to before you had a spiritual awakening. Yes, that does mean after you have a spiritual awakening, the ego will no longer be the primary source of information from which you derive your sense of identity. But it's that old ego that told you your identity was your current beliefs, your likes, your dislikes, your religion, your social and economic position in life. And all of those things are very familiar to the old ego, or what I like to call the 3D ego. Familiarity equals safety to the 3D ego. Remember, the 3D ego's job is to keep you safe. But because the 3D ego is coming from the limited perspective of believing that it's separate from source, usually its ulterior motive is to keep itself safe, while making you believe that it has your best interests at heart. So the 3D ego believes that change equals death. Uncertainty equals death. The unbeaten path is dangerous. So it's going to fill your head with all kinds of self-sabotaging nonsense to keep you in the familiar, really keep itself in the familiar and preserve itself in its comfort zone. As I mentioned earlier, having a spiritual awakening means that your level of conscious awareness rises. So there is a new identity, a higher identity, more in alignment with your true essence as an eternal spiritual being that's giving off a higher frequency. Now, your old limited ego identity, which believes it's something separate from source, cannot accurately interpret that higher frequency. It would be like trying to stream a 4K movie on an old-fashioned tube TV. So because that old 3D ego can't accurately translate that higher frequency coming from your newly awakened life full of limitless possibilities, it will inaccurately interpret that higher frequency that's trying to be birthed as fear and anxiety. This is another reason why a very common ascension symptom is fear and anxiety. As the old ego goes through its identity crisis, it will fight tooth and nail to keep itself alive. Watch out. Here comes the self-sabotaging nonsense. Better stay in that toxic relationship. No one's going to love you the way you are. Better go back to those old friends with their archaic, limited belief systems who would be friends with you. You can't find new friends. Better stay in that job that you hate. Following your heart, you may not be able to pay your bills. This is where you tell the 3D ego, sit the heck down, shut the heck up. No one asked you. Go sit at the kids' table. And this is because the 3D ego, identity, does not know on the other side of what it considers safe and familiar is freedom. You've got to do a spiritual gut check, Light Fam. Does the caterpillar try to stop the metamorphosis process and hang on for dear life to remain a caterpillar? No. Hanging on to the old identity may mean hanging on to what is no longer serving you. But we don't play it safe. We don't play it small here at Lightways, Light Fam. The universe is all about constant conscious expansion. What is the opposite of expansion? Stagnation. Well, you are also a part of the universe, so you can't remain stagnant either. So how bad do you want your greatest version? Are you brave enough to let go of the familiar? Brave enough to let go of the safety of what is keeping your best life off of your current timeline? Before a spiritual awakening, you were operating almost entirely from the first three lower chakras, also known as the ego chakras. So the root chakra is associated with survival. What did we say the ego's job was again? The sacral chakra is associated with identity and sexuality. Identity. Sounds like an ego word. The solar plexus chakra is associated with personal power as well as personality, which is kind of interesting because it's when you look at the solar plexus chakra, it looks like a little mini sun. And so it's your sun sign that's associated with your personality from my astrology people out there. But again, personality, identity, ego. But after a spiritual awakening, your heart chakra opens. The heart chakra is considered the bridge chakra to the top three chakras associated with higher consciousness. Now, this would make sense since the dominant frequency of source consciousness is love. So what this is saying is that love is the bridge to higher consciousness, to your higher self. Now, because that old identity, that old ego is more in alignment with concepts of fear, be it archaic fear-based paradigms, codependent relationships, lack scarcity mindsets, self-loathing thoughts, etc. That is out of vibrational alignment with the higher frequency of the heart chakra, the bridge chakra, which obviously is going to be out of alignment with the top three chakras associated with higher consciousness because they're in alignment with love, which is the opposite of fear. One of the main spiritual awakening signs is discovering your own truth. Not some truth someone else gave to you that you're supposed to just blindly accept on faith, but you discover what truth resonates with you. You discover your personal truth that you understand, and then you operate from a centered place of personal power. So now, naturally, whatever is out of alignment with your personal truth or out of alignment with your personal power, you feel like you've just outgrown. And your path is going to naturally lead you away from things that no longer resonate towards things that do resonate true for you. And this is why there is an identity crisis, because your old identity was tied to the old beliefs that you've now outgrown. So just as the teenager or adolescent no longer believes in what he or she believed in when they were a child, that teenager is now trying to establish their identity as an adult. So if you're going through a spiritual identity crisis, just kind of look at yourself as a spiritual adolescent where you no longer believe the limiting beliefs that you used to before you had the spiritual awakening, and you're establishing your new identity as a spiritual adult based off of the new beliefs that hold your limitless potential. Before we get into the question of the day, if you are looking to work with a spiritual awakening coach and you would like to work with yours truly one-on-one through Zoom, check the description below for details on that. Also remember to add me over on Instagram _Lightways. I do answer a lot of questions over there. And now, question of the day. What identity did you let go of after you had your spiritual awakening? Describe it for us in the comments below, Light Fam. I would love to hear it. Subscribe, share, like, all that good stuff. We will see you in the next video. Light, love, and abundance to all that are watching and to all you love. Peace, guys.